Hi, in this video we're going to talk about ratios and proportions. So first, a ratio is a number separated, two numbers separated by a colon. So the colon indicates a division. So 3, we would read this 3 to 4, but it can also be written as 3 over 4. So that's a ratio. Ratios can be reduced to the same way as fractions. So for example, if we had 6 to 8, that's 6 over 8, both of which divide by 2. So we could write this as 3 over 4, or the ratio 3 to 4. So these ratios are equivalent. Now, some medications express the strength of the solution using a ratio. For example, a 1 to 5 solution contains 1 part medication to 5 part solution. And that could be in mixture problems too, telling you how much to mix. Okay, now a proportion is an equation where two ratios are equal. So we're going to look at this. So for example, we would say up here we had a proportion 6 to 8 is equal to 3 to 4. So this is an equation with an equal sign where the two sides are equal. Okay, so in a proportion we can solve for any missing value. So I can make any of these numbers an unknown and we could solve for it. So that's what we're going to do. You can solve for any of and we're going to write them as fractions to be able to do that and cross multiply. So for example, if we had 5 is to x as 10 is to 50. So we've got a ratio here and a ratio here, and we're trying to find the x. So one way to do this would be to write 5 over x, write both as a fraction, and then we're going to cross multiply. So you can do this anytime with fractions as long as there's an equal sign. So we can, actually let's reduce this fraction first. They both divide by 10. So 1 over 5. Okay, now to cross multiply, the way this works is you would take the bottom of one side and multiply it on top, and the bottom of the other side and multiply it on top. So here we'll have 5 times 5 is 25, and 1 times x is x. So this is saying that x is 25. So we're saying that 5 is to 25 is the same as 10 is to 50. Now take a look at this. And you see that if we multiply 5 by 2, we get 10, and we multiply 25 by 2, we get 50. Now, these numbers, inside numbers, are called the means, or you can think of m as saying the middle. So the middle numbers are called the means. Let's just write middle. And the outside numbers are called the extremes. And you can think of that as the end numbers, the numbers on each end. So there's a good way to check that you've done this correctly. I just did it by multiplying by 2, and we could see that, but sometimes it's not as obvious. So the means, multiplying the means and the extremes actually should give us the same number. So the means give me 250, and the extremes, 5 times 50, also give me 250, and those are equal. Okay, so that's another way to look at the question. So we're going to do a few more of these. Okay, so the first one, so 12 is to 9 is equal to 8 is to x. So here's our question. We're going to write these as a fraction and cross multiply. So we're going to take Actually, these reduce again, so let's reduce it. Anytime you can reduce first is better because the numbers become smaller. Okay, now to cross multiply, we're going to multiply the 3 by the 8 and the x by the 4. So we'll have 4 times x, and 3 times 8 is 24. And then we have 4x equals 24, so x would have to be 6. You can see that by dividing both sides by 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So we can check 12 to 9 is the same as 8 to 6 by multiplying the means, or the middle numbers, and the extremes. And they should be equal. Okay, example 2. Four to 3 is the same as 12 to what? So 4 over 3 is 12 over x. Now I don't see that I can simplify this, so we're going to just cross multiply. 4 times x is 4x, and 12 times 3 is 36. And what we're doing here really is the same as the means and the extremes. The extremes is 4 times x, and the means are 3 times 12, and they need to be equal. So I'm actually just using this property to solve it. Divide both sides by 4, and x is equal to 9. So 4 is to 3 is equal to 12 is to 9. So if we check 3 times 12, the middle numbers, and 4 times 9, they're both 36. Now we can have decimals in these as well, so let's do one with a decimal. 25 to 5 and 1.5 to x. So if we write 25 over 5, this actually reduces nicely. 25 over 5 is just 5. So when we cross multiply, we only need to move the x. So 5x equals 1.5. Divide both sides by 5. So x equals 1.5 divided by 5. Now, if you can't do this in your head, you can think of that as 15 divided by 5. That might help. So that gives 3. That would be 0.3. But let's just look at the long division. So anytime there's a decimal here, we put it up and then sort of ignore it. So now 5 goes into 15 3 times. So the 15 is here, and we would line that up. Subtract 0, so we're done. Goes in 0.3. And we could have fractions as well. So let's suppose we have, grab a piece of paper. One half to x is 1/5 to 1. So this will be 1/2 divided by x is equal to 1/5 divided by 1. So this looks a little bit more complicated, but there is another way we can do it, but we'll just look at it this way. So that times x, and 1 times 1/2. So 1/2 and 1/5 times x. Okay, so now this 1/2, and this is x over 5. Right, that's like over 1, and it's multiplying fractions, so you multiply top and bottom. And we can cross multiply again. We don't need to move the 2, we just need to move that 5. So this will be 5 times 1 over 2 is x. So x is 5 over 2. All right, now let's look at this a different way. If we look at the means is equal to the extremes, how does that look? Does it look any better? So the means, or the middle numbers, is x times 1 over 5, and the extremes is 1/2 times 1. So that's x over 5 is equal to 1/2. So it gives us this exact same expression. Multiply the 5 over here, x is 5 over 2. So it gives us the same thing. Okay, so that's the end of that video. We'll do some word problems next.